actually we're very bad, disastrously bad, at preparing for disasters in school, especially for the idea of someone with a gun. What the advice that's being given, or the idea of arming teachers is absolutely the worst thing that could happen from the point of view of the child's emotional well-being and in actual preparation for an event. It's actually insane. It's the only word for it. It's totally insane. But before we got to the point of talking of arming teachers, there have been for years now drills on if there is an event, how to get children in and out of school. But all of it is about getting them to a safe place, and there is very little support. I hear this all the time from teachers, that they have no support or any kind of training on being a first responder and how it is that you work with children who've been through a catastrophic event. And most of my work, I think, in the last 20 years, that's the focus, is supporting kids. And so I was already beginning to put together guidelines for teachers on being first responders. The most important that is worth actually putting on the video is that you never take a child back into that experience. So the idea of saying, what did you do when Katrina took place? You don't know what has happened to that child's family. You don't know what their experiences are. And it's so easy to re-traumatize. And so there's lots of information that's useful for teachers. And so I put that stuff together, and it goes out every time there's another event. But Katrina, I just put a note out saying if I could help anyone, then I'd be happy to do so. And Cindy Elliott, who will have to tell I've done this video, sent me an email and said, can you come? And so I think I talked to her on the phone. I did talk to her on the phone and got a ticket. And she met me in Baton Rouge. I have no idea who this woman was. And she's fabulous. She's fabulous. She had on 50s glasses, sunglasses, and a check dress. And she was driving a 1960s sports car, which I should have known what it was. It was such a surreal moment. And so that was the piece of it that's really surreal, is that you end up going somewhere and meeting someone that you would have never known if you had been a little... more retiring or something. And so but then we went straight to a shelter where there were 5,000 people, and spent as much time as we could there, just trying to comfort, talk, find out what's happening to the kids. And then I went to her house, and there was a family that had evacuated that was there, friends of theirs. And I stayed with them, and we're still friends. And her husband's name is Jim, and he collects antique cars. And so there was this other piece of it, But what we did mainly was we were in shelters, and we went to schools, and I talked with the counsellors as well as teachers. So the counsellors were absolutely overwhelmed. And we just went from school to school. We were there on the first day of some schools, but most of that work came a little later, because some of the schools that we visited, I went back a few times, were not open at that point. But the thing that the work in the shelter, Cindy managed to get a school set up in there, so that there were classes for kids, and we worked to help get medical help for people that were really in dire straits, and spent a lot of time talking with mothers, and went back and took lots of supplies, and I documented all of that time. And wrote about it. But the thing that was so extraordinary to me about the shelter that we visited in Baton Rouge was that when we first went there, there were notices everywhere. Have you seen? Have you seen? If you need this, if you're looking for, if you need a bus out of town. And it was the entire community that was putting up these notes. And I photographed the walls of, it's almost like a circular area outside the main hall. And I photographed it was the people themselves who were helping themselves and were organizing. And they had bathroom contingencies. If you went into the women's bathroom, there were women in there with mops and chlorine, and they were keeping them absolutely spotless because so many people, and there were people who were not very well at that point with bronchitis and all kinds of other things. And so the second time I went in, there was a military, you had to go through a metal detector. The military were there, and all of the notices that the people themselves had put up had been taken down, and FEMA had taken over. And so FEMA was organizing everything very, very badly. But the work that the people were doing had just disappeared. And it's really important to think about the kinds of knowledge, local knowledge, how people work together, and give them an opportunity to do that. It's not that we need to become libertarians and say we need no government. It's that we need to work with government. We need to be able to work with organizations that are helpful rather than dictatorial and take over. And we don't seem to be very good at that. I don't think that's just America. I think that's just in any kind of situation that I've been in.